All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys all for joining and then allowing us to record this and use this for future purposes and education tools and possibly our YouTube channel, which is growing quicker than we thought it could for the sports management program. So I am Alyssa and I'm going to be hosting with Lauren. If you want to say hi.
Hi, Lauren. Nice to meet you all.
We're going to kind of bounce back and forth between asking questions to you guys. And then just to keep us from all answering the same question, we might only pick like 2 of you to answer one question and 2 to answer the other, but we'll let you guys know ahead of time what questions you get to answer or we're going to ask you. So first off, we're just going to go ahead and have you each introduce yourselves in a challenging 1 minute or less. And then we'll get more into the jobs and how you guys are involved in event and operations now. So I guess we can just go in the order of my screen, which is, I hope, okay with you guys. So Beth, I believe you are first, and then we'll go to Cody, and then Paula, and then Eric, if that's okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Beth Malafa, and I actually worked at Ohio State about 8.5 years ago. I worked for the athletic department there doing fan experience and promotions. I'm currently at Under Armour, and I lead up our global events, experiential marketing, and brand partnerships team. So excited to be with everyone here tonight.
Hey everybody, I'm Cody Crowther, the events and programs manager at USA Triathlon. I graduated undergrad at OSU in 2013 in the sport and leisure studies program, and 2014 in the sport management master's program. And I started at USA Triathlon as an events coordinator in July of 2015. Before that, worked for about 5 years or so at the Schottenstein Center on campus. So a lot of time in the events world, and still doing it here at USA Triathlon.
Hi, I'm Paula D'Amico. I work at USA Swimming. I am an executive assistant and VIP hospitality coordinator. I did not do the sport management program at Ohio State. I did my undergrad at Ohio State. Grew up in Columbus, got my grad from there, worked for the Columbus Clippers for several years, and then I kind of pivoted careers. Went to the University of South Florida for my master's, and then landed out in Colorado Springs, working as an academic advisor, and then landed a job at swimming. And I'll go into more of those details later because I see some questions that will hit all that. But yeah, that's who I am. And I have a 5-year-old son that I love and adore, and he's running around behind me or out there. So he might break in.
He's more than welcome to join, by the way.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Eric Archibald, Director of Events for the Greater Columbus Sports Commission. OSU undergrad, 2016 master's grad, actually. Started career in sports with the Columbus Clippers, so nice to see Paula on here as well. But I'm in my 10th year with the Sports Commission for sports tourism agency, basically. We work with national governing bodies all over the nation trying to bring sporting events to Columbus. So I work directly on the event side of it and also dabble a little bit in event creation for the Sports Commission.
Awesome. Well, we'll kind of just dive into our questions, and I think Alyssa and I will just kind of alternate back and forth asking, just so you kind of can expect who to hear from. But so just going into our first question, if we just want to answer in the same order, this one's going to apply to everybody. We would just like to know how you, or how did you get to where you are today, essentially? So kind of the path.
Same order. You want me to start? Okay. I started my career. I was right out of school. I went and worked for the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, and doing fan experience and promotions for them, and was with them. Had a lot of fun, but then went to the Browns in that order. Everyone always asks me that. And then while I was at the Browns, I led up all of the events and game day entertainment for them. But got my master's in the evening and really wanted to work in collegiate athletics. And so from there, I went to Ohio State and was doing fan experience and promotions there for 4 football seasons. I was there with Trestle, Fickle, and Urban's first year was my last year. So I left right at the end of football season and came to went from Ohio State to Under Armour. And at Ohio State, I did fan experience and promotions. I directed football game day, and actually did quite a bit even with the student council and student groups within the university. Even outside of the athletics, we did a lot of partnerships with them. And then I've been at Under Armour for the past 8.5 years and head our experiential department. Really what we do is we act almost as an internal agency for a lot of our categories. So I head up our externals. So that's everything from Olympics, Super Bowls, to grassroots footballs, to all of our internal events, which would be the, think more of like the teammate driven things. So like town halls, which are like our big team meetings, or our global meetings, global sales meetings like that. And then all of our brand partnerships. So our entertainment partnerships, whether it be with like a Disney or a musician like a DJ Khaled or 2 Chainz or someone like that. So it just completely random where we're at. Quite a different scope. With one thing I love about events is that you don't necessarily, I know Paula mentioned it too. She said she took a pivot. I took some pivots when I left professional to go to collegiate. Everyone thought I was insane. They're like, wow, how could you leave professional sports? I'm like, we play 8 games a season too. We have 105,000. There was 105,000 in the shoe when I was there. People every game. I work with the referees, the coaches. We are on national TV, and they thought I was insane for leaving professional sports. And I think you just have to follow your heart. I knew I always wanted to work in collegiate athletics, and that's one of the things that I love about this area of what you guys, everyone's doing here and what everyone's pursuing, is that you really have to follow your path and see where that takes you. And that's why I ended up at Under Armour, because I wanted to try something in the public sector and see how that was created a bunch of new challenges and opportunities for me there too. So I think that's a really fun part about it, is you can pivot and you can be doing something completely different every day.
Cool. Well, on my end, so it started at OSU in 2009 as an undergrad in the Sport and Leisure Studies program, as it was referred to back then. And I actually came in, had actually spent many years volunteering for local triathlons and road races in the Toledo area, being from Sylvania, Ohio. And so that's what really got me interested in being in the Sport and Leisure Studies program. And I minored in business, and I continued to help with the local race organizers I worked for in Toledo, really until I started and moved out to Colorado Springs in 2015. And so that really got my interest in the sports world and stuck with it, and particularly on the event side. And I started as an undergrad, started as an usher at the Schottenstein Center in 2010. And a year later, they had me come on as an event services assistant. And so I helped the team at the Schott with all things events and staffing, and worked tons of events. And as many of you know, the Schott has 140 plus events annually. And so it was really great to get that experience working as an undergrad and then into my master's program with just getting that events experience from the wide variety of things that come through there in a normal year, from hockey to basketball to concerts and graduations. So a lot of really great people at the Schottenstein Center, and got a lot of good experience there. And then applied for a ton of jobs after graduating with my master's in 2014. And it took a little while, but ultimately I lucked out and applied for a job at USA Triathlon, in a sport that I knew very well. And it worked out that I was able to get that and move out here as an events coordinator. But certainly could have ended up in a lot of other places, applying for jobs right out of school, and applied for events manager or coordinator jobs in a lot of arenas and at the convention center with OSU and with other universities, and applied for literally anything and everything. And it took a little while, but ultimately figured it out and moved out here. And been with USA Triathlon ever since, through a few different title changes, but really managing events. And here we manage, one of my roles is managing national championships. All of we own and operate 5 national championships ourselves. Plus we license a lot of national championships, regional and state championships to local race organizers around the country, and manage various other grassroots programming to help grow the sport of triathlon. So lots going on here, and it's certainly a great place to be. And honestly, I didn't know a lot about the Olympic movement before I got this job, but it's enlightened me quite a bit to be out here and see a different side of the sport outside of the collegiate and the professional space.
Hi, like I said, I graduated from Ohio State. I graduated in 2006 with my bachelor's in communications and went to, it was a job fair, I think, at Nationwide Arena. And I met somebody from the Clippers, gave them my resume, and I got a call short time later. So I worked for the Clippers in their front office for about 3 years. Really glad when Eric left, because I pretty much got everything that he was doing, which was much more fun than what I was doing. And if you ever work in minor league baseball, it is a lot of hours for very little money. And so I knew that was not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I did a pivot and wanted to go, I actually wanted to work on a college campus. So I went to the University of South Florida and I got my degree in Master's of Education with a student affairs focus. And after I graduated there, I did some academic advising, moved out to Colorado Springs, did some more academic advising, then decided once I had my son that I wanted to do another pivot of working less because I had my son, like I said. And so I took an administrative assistant job at the university or at USA Swimming under our general counsel. And then I would say about 2 years later, we hired a new CEO and I moved under him as his executive assistant. And then that's where my events role came about. Our CEO has this vision of what we call, or he calls, trializing events. And part of that is being a hospitality experience that we didn't have before at swim meets for our foundation, for donors for our foundation, trustees, sponsors, potential sponsors, fans, and really to find a way to bring in casual fans too. So I have a very kind of specific job within that, the events realm that kind of caters to our CEO's vision. I work as part of a small person as part of a larger team. And that's kind of how I got here. A lot of twists and turns.
All right, I'll wrap it up. So how did I get to where I'm at today? I like to credit a lot of it to my experience at Ohio State, honestly. See Dr. Turner's on the call. Without meeting Dr. Turner in a sports marketing class as an undergrad, I would not have stayed at Ohio State and pursued my master's, the master's program in sport management. So lots of, and very grateful for my experience at Ohio State. Did spend 3 full seasons at the Columbus Clippers. So as a junior in undergrad, I took an internship and then I stayed on 2 additional seasons full time, working for the director of merchandise at the time. Upon graduation for my master's, I moved to Florida. At the time, I was excited, couldn't wait to get out of Ohio. I was born and raised in Ohio, had always been here. Couldn't wait. I had a job lined up in Florida, working in the PGA golf industry, actually. I was the sponsorship sales manager for a Champions Tour event in Destin, Florida. Absolutely fabulous to live in Florida, live right on the Gulf Coast. But I found out real quickly that sponsorship sales was not for me. So that was a big wake-up call, kind of trial and error, figure out what I was not strong suited at. But because of that first job I really took after school, I got to connect with some event operations companies in the golf industry. So I did move back to Ohio within a year of leaving, and I've been here now ever since. But I worked for about 6 full years in the golf industry, managed about 20 professional golf tournaments, doing some course build out, PGA events, LPGA, Champions Tour events, just all over the nation. All of my work was outside of Ohio, actually. So even though I lived in Ohio, I traveled for about 8 months a year, spent about 1 month in a different city. After doing that for about 6 years, I realized I just wanted to settle down a little bit. So why I credit my time at Ohio State is as I was thinking back to one class for a PhD student, did a dissertation, a 20-minute dissertation on sports commissions and their impact on the local community. So at this time in my life, I knew I wanted to stay in Columbus and start a family. And I connected with the local sports commission, who is now my boss. And she just happened to have a job back in late 2011, when I went to the sports commission website for the first time in my life and found out that there was a job posted. I applied 4 months later, got it, still in a similar role, working in the events department. And 10 years later, still here, still loving it, very passionate about sports in Columbus, sports tourism. Tourism in general is a weird thing in Columbus. Don't have a marquee city type feeling. We don't have a beach to sell, but we got some great facilities. We got Ohio State. We have the Division II, Division III universities that we host a ton of NCAA championships with. We host a lot of great professional events, NHL All-Star Game, lots of great professional golf tournaments, all a bunch of events. I'm fortunate enough to serve on different types of steering committees and executive committees and get a lot of great experience across a bunch of different sports. So that's very exciting. And then 2 years ago, actually, I was tasked with beginning to create events for the Sports Commission, actually. So now we own a couple of events, a corporate challenge. We're in the process of unveiling a youth camp, actually. So I manage a staff, some part-time staff every summer, working alongside events that we own and do just for the financial community benefit of the Sports Commission. So it took 8 years. When I took the job 10 years ago, I thought I was getting into event management, event creation, but instead I was getting into full-blown hospitality management, customer service related items, but fell in love with it, really enjoy what I do. And it took some time, but I'm doing now really what went to school for and found my strengths. So that's it.
Eric, I think your shout out to Dr. Turner is well deserved, as a lot of us can agree that I don't know if we'd be master's students or just be as passionate about sports as sports marketing, I guess, is his domain, but a well-deserved shout out to Dr. Turner. All right, this question is for Paula and Cody. So events and operations does require you to not typically work just an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job Monday through Fridays, and is usually long hours on the weekends in specific and with busy seasons. So Paula and Cody, what made you look to events and operations as your career path? Paula, you can go first. You look really excited to answer this one.
Well, I got out of it because I didn't want to do the line. I mean, like I said, minor league baseball, we worked so many hours. It was a lot. So I got out of it. And then as an advisor, I ended up doing more nights and weekends too, with orientations and such. So I got out of it and I didn't have any plans on coming back to it. But like I said, I started working for my current boss and he had a different vision in mind. And that's okay. Like it's, you really have to, I think for me, how I can, it's what I really enjoy about it is the traveling and getting to meet new people. I also get to, when I'm doing an event, I get to work with different people in the organization that I wouldn't typically, and I get to travel with different people. Like our national team staff is never in the office because they're always traveling, but I get to see them at swim meets, and that's when I get to know them. So I really enjoy that part, and so I I didn't want to get here, but I'm back here, and it's about taking self-care when you are at these events, because they can be long. I'm lucky enough that in swimming, we have prelims in the morning and finals in the evening. So neither one, like final and prelims usually starts at 9 or 10. So it's not too early. And so it's not early, and I have a chunk in the middle of the day. It might be a later evening, and the weekends is fine, but I have that chunk of time in between the prelims and the finals. And I can just do a lot of self-care during that time. So that's what helps me kind of get through, especially a long meet or back-to-back. Because in 2019, I traveled a lot, and it really wore me down. And I had to, like I said, you just have to be intentional about your self-care. I go to as soon as I get there, I get food from the grocery store, so I'm not eating crap every day. I find a gym if the hotel doesn't have one. And then as much as you can, like, sleep is probably the hardest to get, but just trying to really focus on those things. And then when you can't, you just engage with those coworkers that you just enjoy. And it just makes the events and the long days and the nights so much easier. And make them more enjoyable and memorable. So didn't really want to end up back here, but I'm definitely glad to be back in the event space. It's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot and met a lot of people.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Cody, you can go ahead.
Yeah, no, I definitely would echo a lot of what Paula said, in that it's definitely have to take care of yourself when you're working a lot of hours. But I think I've always been in the events world. That's kind of what I grew up knowing and having helped out. I would, when I was, in high school and through college, still helping work local races in the Toledo area. And I, especially during the summer, working triathlons, a lot of times you wake up at 4 a.m. to go work a race, and you're working most of the day. And so it's always weird hours. You're always working on the weekend, and that's just sport. I mean, any area of sport, it's always like that. And so, and especially if you're the one managing the event, you're usually the first person there and the last person to leave. And so that's just kind of part of the game. But you definitely have to take care of yourself. I think, for me, I would echo, what Paul said, and go definitely try to eat right. And especially if we're traveling for a week at an event, out of town, on the other side of the country, eat right, but also take time, at the end of the day to go get a nicer dinner and not just eat junk and try to get back to work and take a little bit of time off to relax for a little bit and catch up on with your friends, hopefully who you're working with, your friends with, and you go get a beer with them, or just breathe for a little bit before you have to wake up at 3 a.m. the next day and do it all over again. So it's important to definitely take some time at the end of the day to recuperate and make sure you're all set for the days ahead. But I will say, working in our sport, in triathlon, well, the days are usually really early. Usually we're done by 5 or 6 p.m. If we have an event going on. Whereas working in the arena world, spending time at the shot for about 5 years, the hours there are a lot longer and a lot more consistently bad hours to have to work. When you're working, you might work 12-hour days, several times a week, when you have 140 plus events a year. And so fortunately, we only own and operate 5 events ourselves that I have to be fully available pretty much 24/7 for a whole week for. Otherwise, we license a lot of events to other race directors, and I get to show up and look nice and hand out some awards. And the time commitment is not as much. And then, when we're not traveling for events, it's usually an 8 to 5 kind of job for the most part. So that is nice, and that was a nice shift for when I started this job compared to working in the arena. And not that one is better than the other, but the hours are certainly not as bad as working events in the arena or stadium world.
All right, that was awesome. Thanks for that insight on that. So our next question is going to be for Beth and Eric, and it's like kind of a double-ended question. So we're just kind of curious, what stressors in your job are kind of stuff that would keep you up at night? And then on top of that, throughout your career, like what is something that you are most proud of so far? Beth, do you want to start us?
Sure. I was going to say Eric could start, but yeah, I'll definitely start. So stressors for me tend to be a lot of those variables that are just sometimes are unknown for in the world, and just things that you can't always control. But I have a pretty good sized team, which we vary across multiple areas. So I think for me, one of the things I always like to make sure is that my team is being taken care of and that they're being treated right. In our world of sport management, experiential events, a lot of times we're looked to as the people who are always the ones who are going to fix everything. So I know Cody and Paula and Eric can all agree, like, not only are you like writing the script, organizing, executing, but you got to remember to bring that extra light, or bring that extension cord, or make sure that the food that people are being fed. And a lot of times that those little things, if people don't realize until they go through it, that those are the ones that those are the things that actually make an event. The little things are really what build to make something beautiful. And so I think a lot of times I just want to make sure that my team is being taken care of and that they're being treated in a fair and equitable way. And that's sometimes I think challenging because I can't control that, but I often feel their stressors when I'm hearing their mishaps or things that are not necessarily being treated in a what we would say a fair way. So that's, I think, a stressor for me. It's and something I can't control. We always know we can never control the weather, whether inside or outside. That's something that's just going to happen. But probably my biggest thing that keeps me up is making sure people are that the team has what they need and that they're able to perform at a high function. The second part of your question, something that I'm really proud of, which I think is really cool, and for everyone on here, I encourage you, like, everyone here has done the jobs. I've done the job where I've zip tied 10,000 chairs on Cleveland Browns Stadium for a Kenny Chesney concert. We've all done those jobs. So I encourage everyone in this program. Dr. Turner is great. I didn't have him as a professor, but I got to work with him at Ohio State. So take his advice, do internships, do externships, and see what you can, what you learn. And I think Eric said he found out that was not his path. Sales was not his role in management. That wasn't the way he wanted. And that's a beautiful thing that you can find out. One of the things I think is such a wonderful thing about sport is that we get the opportunity to give people a chance to forget their problems. And whether it's 3 hours at a football game, whether they're running a race at a triathlon, whether they're competing, we have the opportunity to give these people a chance to just forget their problems and experience, just have fun and experience. The one that always sticks in my head as one of my achievements is I was working at the Browns, and it was the opening of game day, which was always stressful because if you did not kick off right at 1:02 p.m., your $25,000 fine would be coming down to the thing saying, like, why didn't you kick off? And I've had coaches from Bill Caller to everyone screaming in my face, and I'm like, you're not going anywhere, we're kicking off at this time. But one of the greatest things, and it's kind of cool because it was Ohio State was there, but Ohio State band was playing. We always rotated when I was at the Browns. The Bengals got them one year, the Browns got them next year. So we had Ohio State band playing. We had a full color guard, which meant, many of you people know, but it was all branches of the military. We had all this pomp and circumstance. It was a huge game. And we had a flyover, which was always really special. And standing next to me was my brother. And my brother's 6'5", and he's my older brother. And when I looked over, he had tears in his eyes. And that emotion that we can evoke, that we can do, is something that's so special that makes all those long hours, all those nights away from your families, it makes it so worth it. And when you're getting paid peanuts, and many times we are paid peanuts, I have legitimately traded glom and swag for food because I did not have enough money to eat. When I've had internships, I've had to barter with restaurants for I'll be like, I'll give you these tickets if you will give me a pizza. And so I understand where you guys are coming from, but I think that's one of my proudest moments is when I looked over and I saw that emotion on my big brother's face. And that's something that to me is priceless, and why I love what all of us get to do, what we do.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, my turn. I'm so glad I got this question. So thank you for selecting me to answer it. So Beth mentioned the one thing that stressed me out every single day is that checklist, a reference she made. You know, did you check everything off your list? Are you ready to host an event? Are you ready to manage the event? But is my checklist actually accurate? Is it good? Is it enough? What if the client wants something else and he doesn't tell us until day of? Then you just gotta, you know, make magic happen and make it work, understand what that is. So it's exciting. Although it's stressful, it's also exhilarating. And that's why I love working in the event world and in the sports world. But a lot of the stressors today are different than they were 2 years ago. I never thought I would be on so many calls and daily, just talking about what it takes to put on a basketball tournament that we're doing in two weeks from now. Just all kinds of testing protocols, safety, presentations to the Columbus Public Health Commissioner. I never thought I would cross paths with her, but she's been on TV every day for a year, and I had to present to her. You know, a week ago, it was so stressful. Was she going to pass this plan that we've spent so much time on? So it's really exciting, really challenging, but we are getting there. But a big stressor, actually, just thanks to some of Cody's former colleagues at the Shot, just saved the day about 7 hours ago. We're hosting the NCAA Division II Women's Basketball Championship, Elite Eight and Regional Round here in Columbus at our convention center, which is not a basketball venue. We're hosting it in a week, the regional games, in 2 weeks, the Elite Eight. Well, about 8.5 hours ago now, we did not have operable basketball goals for this event that is coming in a week. Like, the NCAA is arriving in mere days. So we were full on event panic mode, or I don't know what we would have said. So we had to figure it out. Folks at the Shot got some goals. We're headed out over to Cavelli tomorrow, picking up 2 goals with shot clocks and everything that we need. So I'm serving as a role of tournament director for this particular NCAA championship. So it's an opportunity my job has given me. It's very exciting. Our host institution is actually Ohio Dominican. So Columbus, we have D2 and D3 colleges here, which is really fabulous. But because of the shift of fall sports, starting now with practices and competing soon, becoming spring sports for the time being, campus facilities just weren't working out for the calendar. So we had to pivot and create the convention center into a basketball arena. So, and then most accomplished that I've been a part of in my career, actually, I'd have to say the 2018 women's Final Four that we had in Columbus, downtown at Nationwide Arena. I served on the host committee. I was actually on the executive committee with some of the Ohio State athletics leadership and some of City of Columbus leadership. It was 4 years of planning. We were awarded it back in like 2014 or 15, traveled to every single women's Final Four for the 4 years leading up to it. And come 2017, 2018, it was 24/7. Everything I did, every move I made in my work was about the Final Four, just a plan. Easter weekend, 2018. It was absolutely incredible. 3 of the most exciting college women's basketball games ever. People still talking about it. It was just very relieving to get it over with, but also I've never felt more accomplished than being a part of that. So it was really great managing a 70-person local organizing committee, getting to work with so many great city leaders, and it's opened up so many doors for our organization, for myself also, just since then.
Okay, I kind of like the answers to this question. Can we also ask Cody and Paula the same question? Just because I think the storytelling element and seeing how you guys are going from how similar places to how we're feeling today and unsure and often staying up at night because we don't even know what job is lined up for us next. Paula and Cody, what are some stressors you have, and what are some of your most proud accomplishments? Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I'll take it. I think the stressors, obviously COVID is the biggest stressor for everybody, but I think last year more so than now, and when there was so much uncertainty, and we had to cancel all of our events last year, as pretty much everybody did, and so that was just not knowing what to do. I mean, for when I first started at USAT, we had a rhythm, and we just kind of some of our events are turnkey, and you kind of go, and everybody knew what they were doing, and then things change, people move, jobs change, and that stuff happens, and it's, and you figure it out. But like COVID is a whole other animal. And so, my job shifted from managing events last year, managing real events, to managing virtual events. I never thought I'd be putting on a virtual triathlon, let alone like 8 of them to date. We put on a virtual conference that actually we just had about a month ago, which was really awesome. We had to figure it out. And I think starting in COVID, we had to write, between myself and my boss and the rest of our team, we wrote dozens and dozens of pages of documents for our athletes and our race directors and our community on how to return to racing after COVID, and how to just, even with, how to have races with COVID in play. And this is actually, I said this back when we were doing it, but when we were writing a lot of these documents that we're still using today on, best practices for race directors and athletes, I definitely took a lot of things we did in my master's program in citing sources and doing appropriate research and making that in a more of an educational document that I never thought I'd have to use again, at least in this job. And so we made it a very educational, official looking document with appropriately cited sources and everything. And so that was, I had to really dig deep to remember how to do some of that stuff. But you figure it out. And I think some of the best accomplishments, at least that I've had, were one, I think just serving as assistant race director of several events in the past few years is great. Coming from working a lot of local races, when you get 200 or 300 people who are, so a lot of which have never done a triathlon before, in local events, to working, some of the top triathlon in the country, and that, you get the top athletes in the country who want to qualify for world championships and go on to compete against the best in the world. And so it's really a privilege to work to help facilitate those events, and you get to see, the best of the best, but you see, people who, this is their only goal is to ever finish a sprint or an Olympic distance triathlon, and to see them have their dreams come to fruition is certainly really rewarding to do. And my own dad does triathlon, and so he finished our race that was in our biggest event was in Cleveland in 2018 and 2019. So my mom and my dad came in, and he finished that. My mom volunteered, and so that was really awesome to be part of. And then recently, I definitely would say our biggest accomplishment, and certainly something I'm most proud of, is the virtual conference we put on. We had over 1,000 people join our industry conference in January. And normally, of course, we would have held it in person. We had it in person at Arizona State football stadium in January of 2020. And little did we know things would change, a month and a half later. But we successfully I kind of led the charge in figuring out a virtual platform, and our team created a lot of really valuable sessions. We had more sessions than we ever could have in an in-person conference. We got a lot of really great speakers connected, through Apollo Ono, to Gwen Jorgensen, to some legends of triathlon, and a lot of really some of the top coaches and race directors in our sport joined us, and we had over 1,000 people. A record of 1,000 people join our conference, and it was really certainly rewarding to kind of work with the best of the best and meet a lot of new faces, and have a really successful event that benefited our attendees, and also made a little bit of money for our organization that lost a lot of money last year. So it was great to have that positive experience.
For me, I don't envy Cody at all, because I know our events team, like Cody, has written up a ton of COVID protocols and done research, and it's just nuts. For me, because I have kind of a specific job when it comes to events, and that's running our hospitality. The hospitality area is really, at our events, is the kind of baby of my or the child or whatever of my boss. I mentioned the term trialized earlier. So every 4 years we have our Olympic trials that we put on, and it is a spectacular show. It's huge. It's not just, I can't explain. It's just, it attracts more than just the swim fan. And so essentially that's what we wanted to try and do at our other big events, our nationals and our US Open, is bring that same intensity and excitement to those swim meets, where it's typically just parents and maybe swim fans, and really create a space for, or experience for this the casual sports fans, so that they can come and experience swimming in kind of a different way. And so we have this hospitality area, and like I said, it's casual fan can come up. We sell tickets to it, and we kind of create this. We want to create an experience, a unique experience for them at our swim meet. So fans can do it. We have our donors come up. We have local people that are, sports commission people, politicians sometimes. So a bunch of people in this one space. So my long story short, the stressor for me is my boss's vision. He has ideas, and he has big, great ideas, and it's exciting, but sometimes they don't fit the space, or just for some reason we can't do an aspect of it. And telling my boss no is a stressor, because he does not like to hear no, in a good way. So that like keeps me up, because I'm like, how do I ask for this? Because they're going to tell me no, and then they do tell me no, and how am I going to tell my boss? Like, he doesn't like no, and so that is a huge stressor for me. But we make it through. Like every event comes out, with things that went really well and some things that didn't. And then he's always got new ideas for the next time. So it's fun, but it's stressful. I would say for me, the biggest accomplishment, for me, it's just knowing myself and knowing when I need to, what I need to grow as a professional, and what I need for where I am in my life, and just being able to recognize those paths along the way. That is huge for me. I didn't, have one thing set in my mind. I was like, I have to go do that. This is the path I have to take from A to B. For me, it was more of being nimble and being able to adapt. And it's led me to a place that I really, really love. Swimming is a really wonderful organization. I work with some really fun people, and just awesome people in general. And my boss treats me like gold. Like I ended up where I was, I think, because I paid attention to my internal, voices telling me like, this isn't good. Like, I don't want this anymore. And just kind of really paying attention to what I liked doing, what I was good at doing, and just kind of following that path and not pinning myself into one hole. Like I think a lot of people have said today, like you pivot and you find what you like and what you don't like. And I think that is something you should pay attention to. Don't stay where you are just because that's where you thought you're going to do you know, when you're in high school or college or whatever. So for me, that's my biggest success, is just paying attention to that inner voice and going with it, because it's paid dividends.
I feel like a common theme is pivoting and being flexible across the sport industry in general. So thank you all for sharing the answer to that question.
Yeah, no, those are some great responses throughout the night. And I guess we just want to give an opportunity to anybody else if they have any questions. So we'll leave a few minutes or.
I actually have a question. It's borrowed from another chat, but I want to ask it here. Well, I guess I'm gonna kind of just have this question be open, but working at a national governing body versus other sport organizations, kind of like what is some differences? I feel like, you know, is it the same, or is it like really unique in being an NGB and kind of the requirements and kind of special stuff that comes with that?
I'll just speak a little bit. I bet Cody can give a little bit more. It is a different world. Like, I did not understand the NGB world, the Olympic movement. It's like, so we are a nonprofit, and we have a board of directors, and we have to like socialize things with them before we have to make these big decisions on our organization, our membership. Like, it's just, it's kind of crazy how it works. And then for us at swimming, like, it's almost kind of like the government. So we have USA Swimming, and that's our headquarters. And then we have these things called local swimming communities, but they're part of these zones. And then amongst the local swimming communities are these clubs. I mean, there's all these different layers, and we're a part of a bigger layer that's, like the International Olympic Committee, and then the USOPC, and then all of us, I think there's like 50 some of us NGBs. It's just crazy. And then on top of it, Cody and I work at two of the bigger ones. I think you guys, we're down to about 70 employees. I'm not sure what you guys are at, but some of these NGBs are running on like 6 employees. I think Pentathlon has like 1. So it's just, that person is doing, it's like in a lot of sports, everybody's wearing a lot of hats. And it's just, I don't know, Cody, I'll let you go. It's just, it's different than anything I've experienced. It's kind of bonkers.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, it's coming from the arena world and in the college world, it's, I think, especially for sports that are growing, like triathlon and swimming, and most Olympic sports are growing. Things change like daily. Literally, like, especially even more so during coronavirus, but like even before, there's always new things coming up, new initiatives, new grassroots efforts to grow the sport. There's always new things to do. And so we all wear a lot of hats, and just always having to be adaptable and flexible and just willing to kind of roll with the punches. And, even with our organization that we lost about 20 people, I think we were at about 70 people. Now we're about 50 people after last year. And so, I'm certainly very fortunate to still be doing what I'm doing. But you just kind of got to go roll with the punches, and, doing things that you may not have ever thought you would do, or that you don't necessarily want to do, but especially now, even more so now, to help benefit and keep the organization afloat. It's something you just got to be ready for. And, like I said, I never thought I'd be doing virtual triathlons. I have to learn that technology. I'm definitely an in-person kind of race director and like to put on in-person events, but having to figure out virtual events and virtual conferences and write a lot of documents on how to return to racing and go through that research and a lot of things like that. Just have to be kind of flexible and willing to kind of go with the flow and help do your part to keep the organization moving. And I think that the difference there is, a lot like I compare a lot to working in an arena, like you know, working in an arena, and during normal times anyways, I haven't worked at an arena during coronavirus, but you know, like you have your processes, you have your regular things, like everybody has a job, and it's a, you know, not that things don't change, but it's a pretty regular thing. Like you don't necessarily, from event to event, everybody's basically doing the same thing. You still have ticket takers, you still have ushers, you still have security staff. Everybody basically does the same thing. You make customizations to the event, of course, and the stage is different and things like that. But like everybody's generally doing a lot of the same stuff. You know, when you have 20 basketball games, like they're all from a high level kind of the same. I mean, again, there's unique things you do at every event, but and it's not at all like that here. And you know, we certainly, a lot of our events can be turnkey, but there's, especially now, a lot of things that you just have to, you know, are new, and you have to figure out on the fly, or and do as much planning in advance to hopefully be in a good spot when it comes to putting on the event, and try to have as much foresight as you can as to what could go wrong, and what and opportunities that you might have to make the event as good as you possibly can.
I just want to add two things. What is nice is the NGB is a community, and I know a lot of our there's just a lot of collaboration on stuff. I know our Safe Sport program will collaborate with other Safe Sport programs. So that's one thing that I feel like it's a little bit unique. And not that other sports don't share information and stuff, but I really feel like our NGBs lean on each other for stuff. I believe swimming works a little bit with triathlon on open water stuff, and we'll exchange information. So that's kind of one thing. And then the other thing about our sports is we don't really have a season, right? Like it's not like we have a 10-game season and then there's playoffs and then there's a championship game. We have these random swim series across the country, like, and we have our nationals, and then every 4 years we have our trials, and so it's very different when you have that cut and dry, you know, April to September schedule, and then you go into playoffs. It's not like that. You just have our different zones and sectionals doing these random meets throughout the year. So it's hard to kind of sometimes it's hard to market that, and it's hard to bring events to your events because it's not a normal ebb and flow, I guess, is the best way to put it. I don't know if you can word it better, Cody.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, there's always, again, like new things coming up, and especially because we all, especially in the NGB world, and the same thing is like if you're touring in a concert or something, it's very similar, but you're always moving new cities. You have to deal with, and as Eric knows as well, you always have different events that are coming in that have very unique challenges. Especially triathlon has more unique challenges than pretty much any sport. I'm willing to say, and it's very hard to find a venue, for instance, in this case, to host a triathlon. We a couple of years ago, for example, we talked to. I was on a site visit in Columbus looking at potential options for hosting a triathlon, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out because there's just so many unique things that have to be part of a city to host something as unique as a triathlon, more so than other sports. Basketball, swimming, volleyball. It's pretty easy to find a place to swim and to find a place to play basketball and find a place to play volleyball, but it's not necessarily easy for our sport, and other sports have similar problems. And so that is one unique challenge to our sport, but a lot of NGBs have similar, like Paula was saying, and there's a lot of unique things with every sport that you have to figure out and just work through those challenges.
I had one.
Oh, go ahead, John.
I had one brief question, and it just kind of came to mind authentically, I guess we can say. All of you have worked at different organizations and made transitions. So as a student, who had an opportunity after undergrad and returned to grad school, but I've never made a transition from like full-time to full-time. I don't know if one of you maybe feels called to talk about when you get that itch and how you manage that itch, within your organization respectfully. I'm sure we can talk about this for a long time. Maybe it's a topic for another discussion. But if anybody kind of can talk a little bit about that transition and how they did it.
I can talk a little bit about it. Or quickly about that, because I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. But I think that one thing you'll do is, as you have these opportunities and as you do it, you'll continue to network. And I would suggest always letting a few trusted people know when it's time for you, when you're starting to feel like, hey, I really feel like I'm starting to want to go back to, to athletics. I really want to start going back into that opportunity. Because a lot of times, if you're doing well, if you're exceeding, if you're excelling in your role, people won't even know to look to you if that's something that you want to do. So I would always keep those trusted people within your network. And that's really a huge part of what we do, guys, is networking, is continuing to stay in contact with people. And even from this call, like Paula and I have shared a couple, even just chats. And it's like, that's important, is keeping that up. And I think too, I think that's a natural growth. Sometimes it's good to feel uncomfortable. Like that's a good thing, is to feel a little uncomfortable and a little outside of your skin. Because of course you can stay in a role and be completely happy and do a bunch of great new things. But one thing I see too, and especially coming from the pro world going into more the public, and then maybe that's where I'm going to go back into pro, is like that. A lot of times you see people within, like, let's say the NFL, where I was for 10 years, they stay within that system. So if you've gone, come back and come out, you can offer a lot of opportunity, a lot of vision, a lot of different aspects and vision that people have never even seen, because they've literally just kept moving and going up the same chart. So it's one thing that I see, and a lot of my friends even within that will hit me up. I'm like, well, you're looking at it from a very myopic, you're looking at it from a very singular lens. So you really can make yourself quite quite attractive to a lot of people. And you're seeing that too. Like, look at a lot of the top C-level sport people who are coming in. They're coming in from places like Google and Apple, and all these places are coming in because they're like, wow, we like the lens. We like that they have a global vision. We like that when I'm over in Japan, when I go over there, no one knows Tom Brady. Yeah, they know Stephen Curry, like when we have it, but they don't know Tom Brady. And so you have to look at it from a much larger lens. So I think it's really important to have that trusted network, and don't be afraid to reach out and try new things, because I think you can really experience some cool things that way. Awesome. It's a great question, John.
Thank you. I was under Simon with the Browns last year, Simon Galan. I don't know if you worked under Simon.
It's been a while since I've been there. I have a lot of dear friends there still. But I left the Browns in 2009.
Gotcha.
So, to go to Ohio State.
Well, thank you all. I can't express enough how just valuable it is just hearing experience from you guys. I know some of us are worried about applying to jobs, are starting to get there, and like Alyssa has already secured a job with USA Artistic Swimming. So hearing from governing bodies, hearing from the Columbus Sports Commission, and then Under Armour in general has just been very valuable to all of us. So I want to thank each and every one of you. And just for the sake of time, we'll go ahead and end it there. If anyone has any questions, are you guys okay if they reach out to us and we can send along your email addresses? Okay, that is great. So that is all we have for tonight. On behalf of Lauren and I, thank you guys so much, and have a good rest of your night.
Go Bucks. It was an honor to speak to you all.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Brian.
Thank you.
Bye.